You could call it a permanent social media blackout for children and teenagers in the UK. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has announced a ban on social media for children under 16. It could take effect early next year, and it would include Snapchat, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and X. Here's the Prime Minister.
Every parent can see it with their own eyes. Social media is making children unhappy. It's making it easier for bullies to harass and abuse them. And it could even be harming their mental health, exposing them to content that is dangerous, because that's what grabs the attention. It's designed to be addictive.
Well, while the government says that this is about protection, critics argue that the ban limits individual freedom. Some young people say that it goes too far.
I didn't think it would actually happen. I kind of believed that he'd chicken out of it and give it more time or more consideration, but he seems pretty sure of it, and I'm not sure if I agree with him.
What are you most worried about?
Not being able to contact my friends. I don't know what will happen and how it will happen, or whether if there's some technicalities to what apps are restricted, but I use most of my social media to contact my parents and family.
Suddenly, you're going to have a lot more time to fill. And what will you do?
Stare at a wall.
All right, joining me now is Xander van der Linden, a professor of psychology at Cambridge in the UK. Professor, it's good to have you with us. I know that you've been very vocal about the downsides of a social media ban. Before we get into the pros and cons, I'd like to get your reaction. What did you think when you heard that schoolgirl there say that without social media, she will fill her free time by staring at the walls?
Yeah, I do wonder and worry a little bit about the unintended consequences of a ban. There's the assumption that if we don't have social media, that we're all going to have high quality alternative activities that we'd be doing, but that's not true of all kids. Some kids will have negative experiences and won't be able to connect with their friends and family. And we need to take that into consideration, and we need to hear from kids about what they want and their worries. I do fear that's not been taken into account sufficiently.
Well, there have always been some children who've had negative experiences, but wouldn't, though, for the majority of young people, wouldn't they learn how to occupy themselves, how to go outside, how to spend time with friends offline? I mean, it would be late, but wouldn't it be a case of better late than never?
Well, it's the question of, what's a better activity? I think maybe if some kids, are on social media, what would they be doing if there weren't? Some kids might be doing things that are a lot worse for them offline. They might get into, trouble. They might get into crime. Sometimes social media can be a useful distraction. And for other kids, they might be better off. They might be spending more time with family, more time watching educational shows. And so I think what you see is it's a nuanced distribution, right? So some people would be better off, some people might be worse off, and that's why we have to have nuanced solutions, I think, rather than a wholesale ban.
I know that you advocate something like a temporary pause in social media use to give the social media platforms maybe time to refit themselves, to make social media safer for young people and children. Could you give me an idea? What would that look like on TikTok, for example? I mean, what would you like to see?
Yeah, so what I would like to see, and I think the Prime Minister is right in that parents are concerned there are real harms to social media, especially TikTok. So something needs to change, but I think the change needs to come from the social media companies, right, rather than the kids' behavior. So one of the things we could do is pose a temporary ban, which is exactly what Canada, for example, is proposing, a temporary injunction to give them time to redesign their products to make it safe. So one of the things TikToks could do is get rid of infinite scroll, get rid of autoplay, disable features that allow strangers to message kids directly, change their recommendation algorithm to not make it maximize based on engagement. So there's a lot of things that they could do to actually make the feeds clean and safe for kids. I mean, there shouldn't be any sexualized content, there shouldn't be any violence on these feeds. And so they should have different algorithms, different types of content, and no risky functionality. And those products can be designed. But of course, social media companies have no incentive to do so. So we should
Yeah.
give them incentive. We should say, we're going to take it away if you don't fix it. But then when they do fix it, we can let kids back on the platform. I think that's a long-term plan with an educational goal in mind rather than just taking away technology indefinitely.
You know as well as I do that governments, they've been slow, reluctant to regulate social media. Is it simply easier and more popular to blame the platforms, to ban them, instead of forcing them to change themselves for the better or for the good of our children?
Absolutely. And look, I'm happy to see that the government is interested in taking action. You know, I've been saying for a long time we need action on mis and disinformation, propaganda, and nefarious influence campaigns. And, you know, I'm happy the government is taking it seriously. But it's the bans are a bit of a knee-jerk reaction. You know, it's the easy thing to do. It's popular. Parents are concerned. They don't know what to do. You know, it's difficult to figure out, you know, for every platform, what are the risks and how to fix it. The easy thing is just to say, let's just ban it all and be done with it. But my question is if that's really in the best interest in building long-term digital resilience and empowering youth and getting them to understand and use technology safely. You know, I'm not sure if that's really in the best interest. UN commissioner, you know, talked about, you know, kids have rights to digital information, to digital access. It's problematic to just cut people off in that way. There's a lot of nuances involved. You know, some groups are cut off from social contact, like the girl that we've heard from. So yeah, it's an unnuanced measure. That will have unintended consequences for some groups. And it's not clear that it works. I mean, look at Australia. Most kids are getting around the ban anyway. So yeah, for that reason, I think you're right. It's a political, you know, it's a way to score political points, but not a way, I think, to ensure long-term digital safety.
And you know the social media companies, they would say, well, you know, you're asking us to change our business model if we change our algorithms, and that's going to hit the bottom line. You've also have a criticism that parents should be more involved in what their children are doing, and you also have the criticism that the schools are not teaching media intelligence, or at least how to have a healthy relationship with media. I mean, there's plenty of blame to go around. At the end of the day, you can't change social norms among young people overnight. So what's your advice to parents in the UK if this ban becomes reality?
Well, if this ban becomes reality, you know, exactly what you said. You know, if we really want to change things, we got to make social media uncool. That's what we did with smoking. That's what, you know, that's what's been done in other areas. You know, unfortunately, in order to make something uncool, the cool kids have to stop using it, which is not what's happening in Australia right now. So I think, you know, parents need to model the behavior. And we're talking a lot about kids. I'm a parent and I do this. I'm on my phone, I'm scrolling. My kids see that. I try to be better about it. But what they're seeing from their parents is that you're on social media, you know, you're looking, it's totally hypocritical. And I think they're right. So, you know, be the change that you want to see in the world. I think that's you know, that's part of my advice, that if we want them to change and think it's not cool, then we have to change too. And it's not just about kids in that way. Yeah.
Let me just ask you, before we run out of time, you mentioned cigarettes. Do you think that people, particularly parents, do you think that they perceive social media to be as dangerous as cigarettes, you know, as something that can give you cancer, that can kill you? Do you think they put these two things in the same threat category?
Well, I think that has been the narrative, that social media is like smoking or like drinking. But importantly, I think there's a few crucial differences. So, you know, smoking, other than personal enjoyment, has no real upsides for your health. You know, same with heavy drinking. But social media does have upsides for people's mental health. It has lots of positive use cases, and so in that way, it differs from products that are almost uniformly harmful. Social media isn't just harmful. harmful. It can be for some groups, and if you do too much of it, right? But it also has these benefits, and that's why we've got to be nuanced about it, and take away the harms, preserve the benefits, and that's currently not what we're doing. We're just getting rid of the whole thing. We didn't get rid of cars; we got seat belts, right? We made sure that car manufacturers have an incentive to produce safe products, and I think we've got to do the same here.
Professor Sander van der Linden, we appreciate you offering your take on what could be a social media ban in the UK. Thank you for your time.
Pleasure.